Hey, so the objective with this is to go over some of the economic impact of the coronavirus. I thought it'd be topical this week. We also get to try out the new setup we've got. The goal today is to talk a little bit about sort of the wider economic impact of the coronavirus, holding aside its concerns over its contagion, the concerns over how long it's going to last, how long it takes to show symptoms. All of those, of course, are very relevant, but it's had some immediate economic impacts in China. And one of the unfortunate aspects of the coronavirus was that it emerged immediately prior to the Chinese New Year. The Chinese New Year is the biggest travel day worldwide. More people move in that period of time than any other time during the year. Factory workers in cities get on trains and go to the villages where they were raised, celebrate with their family, get back on the train and go back to the factory. So there's tons and tons of cross-border movement. And one of the kind of big successes of the Chinese Communist Party is that it delivers that big movement of people seamlessly every year. The challenge then is that if everybody's sick, they might spread the virus pretty widely. So China extended the new year, so factories stayed shut. And as of the day, the 18th, some of those factories are even still shut. So there's a lot of negative aspects going on in China directly. And then right after the virus emerged, the Shanghai stock index fell about 10%. That's the main stock exchange inside China. And one of the concerns then is if the factories are shut down, they're not going to sell products to other countries. So there'll be this limiting of supply for companies like Apple that make cell phones over there. But there'll also be this decline in inputs coming into China. So China is one of the biggest consumers of iron ore, coal, and copper, and those natural resources not coming in have dropped prices for the countries who sell them to China. And, Australia sells the iron ore and coal primarily to China. They've seen a big decline in prices. Chile, which is in South America, sells most of the copper to them. What that does then is if they're not shipping out a lot of products, it's going to be more costly for them to try to import products from abroad, which means that domestically you might start to see some inflation. In other parts of the world, the people that had hoped to sell those products to China suddenly are now, or excuse me, to those countries like Chile and Australia, now they're not selling as many products because prices have gone up because demand for iron ore has gone down. That happened explicitly in South Korea, where their currency has depreciated relative to the dollar almost 3% since the coronavirus started, and that's because they're not selling as many semi-finished electronics to China, where Chinese typically do the final assembly. What that means then, if I'm selling beef to South Korea, my prices for the beef domestically in South Korea have just risen by 3%, which is going to depress demand and could force people to make other choices instead of the beef that I'm trying to sell. And you can see some of that demand diminishment coming out in things like the Qingzhou Brewery, as well as the China Southern Airlines, all both experiencing declines of nearly 20%. Hon Hai Precision, which makes electronics goods over there, has also seen kind of big drops. So the overall impact then is, lots of immediate consumption decline, lots of immediate shrinkages in production might lead to, make it difficult for people to pay their mortgages, make it difficult for people to buy food, make it difficult for people to educate children. And this can have a negative impact on the economy pretty rapidly. Big work stoppages tend to do that. Big shrinkages in the Chinese economy mean that Australia, Chile, people that ship unfinished products to China will start to also see declines in the demand. And also companies that buy finished goods from China will start to see some difficulty getting those products into their country. For example, Apple announced that they're not going to make their revenue for the second quarter because of supply shortages. Now, all indications are the virus is actually sort of slowing down, but there's definitely been a lot of panic over there, and there's definitely been some immediate consequences as a result.